My friends, the Cold War never ended. It just changed battlefields. While you've been watching Los Angeles burn, Communist China has been executing a massive infiltration campaign across America. Their spies are embedded in our universities, stealing our technology and flooding our streets with fentanyl through cartel proxies. But here's what should terrify you. Iran, Russia, and China just held secret meetings to coordinate their assault on American power. And they're not hiding it anymore. They're openly collaborating to destroy us. Lara Trump just exposed how deep it goes, and the evidence is shocking. From ministry agents operating in plain sight to bioweapons smuggled across our borders, the new Cold War is here, and we're already under attack. Keep watching. We're going to break it all down. And China's assault on American strength isn't just economic, it's biological. They're attacking the very testosterone that builds this nation. Now, most men, they blame aging or genetics for feeling drained, but the real culprit is something you eat every day, something you've been told is healthy. This one food destroys testosterone, kills motivation, and leaves you weak. It's not junk food or sugar. Now, the team over at Sculpt Nation, they've created Test Boost Max with 8 natural ingredients to restore healthy testosterone without prescriptions or injections. And thousands of men are reclaiming their strength. So watch the free video exposing this testosterone killer at sculptnation.com/NNN. It's linked down below. That's sculptnation.com/NNN. Take back control today. Now, the new Cold War is not coming. It's actually here. And China's winning battles most Americans don't even know are being fought. And what you're about to see is going to change how you view every Chinese student at your local university and every product on store shelves. Lara Trump just delivered a bone-chilling warning about the scope of Chinese infiltration in America. From spies in Congress to fentanyl flooding our streets, Beijing's war against us is comprehensive and it's ruthless. Watch now as she exposes the terrifying truth.
America is back, but so are her enemies. And they're no longer just testing us, they're working together to take us down. Just days ago, officials from Iran, Russia, and Communist China met behind closed doors to coordinate their position ahead of a critical hearing on Iran's nuclear program. The world's most dangerous regimes, the same ones funding terror, hacking our infrastructure, and undermining our alliances, are now openly collaborating to blunt U.S. influence and advance Tehran's nuclear ambitions. It's not a coincidence. It's a coalition of chaos, and it demands a serious response. Meanwhile, Chinese spies are crawling all over our country, embedded in academia, industry, and yes, even Congress. You may remember it all started with Fang and California Congressman Eric Swalwell. But that was just the beginning. Now we're learning of fresh espionage plots, dangerous pathogens smuggled into the U.S., and a Chinese Ministry of State Security that's operating in plain sight, exploiting and infiltrating, and for years, Washington let it happen. That's why under President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the United States is taking action, revoking visas for Chinese nationals tied to the CCP, especially those working in sensitive fields like AI, semiconductors, and biotech. Because let's be clear, China doesn't just want to compete with us, they want to replace us. They're weaponizing global markets, flooding our streets with fentanyl through cartel proxies, and rewriting the future of technology to serve a communist dictatorship. And now they're doing it all while teaming up with Moscow and Tehran. This is exactly what President Trump warned about. And now under his leadership, once again, we're confronting the threat head on, without apology, without hesitation.
China doesn't want to compete. They want to replace us. And they're using every weapon available. Cyber attacks, drug warfare through cartels, and academic espionage. Thousands of Chinese nationals in sensitive positions just had their visas revoked. But the economic battlefield is where the real war is being fought. Jay Timmons from the National Association of Manufacturers reveals how dependent we've become on China for critical materials. Without these, we can't even build our own military equipment. Watch.
Joining me now, I have President and CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers, Jay Timmons, and in person, too.
Yeah, I know. It's good to be here.
It's good to see you. Meeting of the minds again today after the 90-day pause, President Trump's phone call with Xi last week. Do you expect any sort of truce? And how big of a deal is today in your eyes?
It's a huge deal, Marquis, because there are so many things, critical inputs for manufacturing that are coming from China that we need to have access to. And Tom mentioned critical minerals. Look, we can mine certain critical minerals here in the United States. We can't process them. We need to deal with that in the future for sure, but until that time, we need to figure out a way to get the processed critical minerals here so that we can build our chips, for silicon chips, so we can build our automobiles and other types of manufactured products that need those critical minerals.
Yeah, so put into perspective for us, I mean, how you're watching today, what this means for companies big and small, manufacturers everywhere that, you're out talking to. How edge of your seat is a day like this for you guys?
So I actually don't want to just put it into one day. Look, we've been very concerned about where we're headed in terms of tariffs. Manufacturers have it in the United States. Our optimism survey in the second quarter dropped significantly from 70% optimism down to 55%. Manufacturers are very concerned about what's ahead. They still are very optimistic about the future. If we think in terms of the carrots and the sticks that the administration is putting forward, carrots include tax reforms, getting those reinstated, making sure that we have a rebalanced and modernized regulatory system, workforce development, trade policy, and energy development as well, permitting reform. But we've got to get our trade policies right. We can't increase the cost of doing business in the United States and hope that manufacturing investment follows here in this country.
Did you hear that? We can't process critical minerals here. We need them for silicon chips, automobiles, and defense systems. China has us by the throat, and they know it. Now, manufacturers' optimism dropped from 70 to 55% because of this vulnerability. And Timmons continues explaining the massive stakes of today's trade negotiations. Watch him outline what American consumers and businesses need from these talks and what happens if we fail. Watch.
So it's really important.
And tell me too, for consumers and everyday Americans who are out there watching this morning and they're thinking, okay, a lot of this goes over my head. I just want to pay less. What would a win look like for the American consumer, the American business on your wish list?
Yeah.
What's tackled by the end of this, whenever it's all said and done?
Yeah, so look, I mean, you said that people want to pay less. That's true. They also want to be able to access what they want, right? I mean, you don't want empty store shelves. So the president put this 90-day pause on, as you indicated. We've got 1 month left to get 89 trade deals or frameworks of trade deals done. Now, I have a lot of confidence. I've seen Donald Trump, when he's got his mind set on something, he's going to get it done. So we're very optimistic that those 89 deals will get done by July 9th. But what that means is if you were putting tariffs on goods that are coming into the United States, if those goods are important for you being able to, let's say, build a factory, critical inputs for building a factory, right? You can't afford to build the factory. So we've actually proposed a manufacturing investment accelerator program that will help, as the president's developing his policies, to have a speed pass for manufacturing critical inputs so that we can treat those items duty-free, so that manufacturers can put those machines on a shop floor or bring in the critical minerals, put those manufacturing investments here so we can build more things here in this country.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what today has in store, what both of these parties bring to the table. But
I think this is the bottom line is this. This is what the president gets, and I think the American people get. When manufacturing wins, America wins, and that's the bottom line goal.
Yeah. We'll see what happens today. Jay Timmons, thank you for being with me in person. Do appreciate it, and safe travels.
Thank you.
89 trade deals need to be completed in 1 month. Empty store shelves aren't just an inconvenience, they're a national security threat when China controls the supply chain. The manufacturing accelerator program could be the lifeline. Now, the situation is so critical that these talks are happening in London, not Washington or Beijing. Elaine Dzensky, she explains why location matters and how Europe is watching nervously as America tries to break free from China's stranglehold. Watch.
I think there's leverage coming into this conversation on the part of the Americans and the Trump administration because we have export controls on certain things that Beijing wants. So there will certainly be a conversation about how to get to a better place. But at this point, both sides have made the allegation that that each other has slow-rolled the process since the last time they met. I think it's absolutely critical that these conversations are happening in London. Why? Because the Europeans are watching very closely. They have the same dependency issues as we do on these critical minerals and rare earths. This has to be resolved.
Both sides are slow rolling the process, but America has the leverage. Export controls on things Beijing desperately wants. The Europeans have the same dependency we do. Now, this affects the entire free world. Wall Street's holding its breath as these trade talks unfold. The New York Stock Exchange report shows how deeply China has infiltrated our financial markets. Even Apple is scrambling to navigate both tariffs and their dependency on China. Watch.
Hi, I'm Kristen Scholler at the New York Stock Exchange. Well, equities are little changed after the S&P 500 finished 2.4% from a record on Friday. It's a busy week ahead with several events that certainly can impact the direction for stocks. Today, U.S. and Chinese officials are expected to hold trade talks in London. That's according to President Donald Trump, which he announced on Friday. Additionally, Apple's annual Worldwide Developers Conference starts this afternoon, and traders will look to Apple for updates on its artificial intelligence features and how it is navigating tariffs. Well, inflation data on Wednesday is expected to show consumer prices rose 0.2% in May from April, and economists estimate they were up 2.5% in May from the same time a year ago. Well, a preliminary read on June consumer sentiment on Friday will also include inflation expectations. Today at the New York Stock Exchange, professional services firm KPMG hosts its annual IPO boot camp. The gathering takes place after Circle's blockbuster NYSE debut last week.
Circle's NYSE debut shows companies are trying to decouple from China, but it's not easy when Beijing controls so much of their supply chain. Every IPO, every trade deal, every tariff decision is now a move in an economic war. And Peter Navarro dropping a truth bomb about China's strategy. This isn't random. It's coordinated economic warfare designed to cripple American manufacturing and make us dependent forever. Watch.
Steel and aluminum are critical to our national security and economic prosperity. And here's why the president had to go to from 25 to 50%. We have, let's talk about steel. We have essentially a world glut that emanates from China. It's a massive overcapacity. And what China does is it feeds that steel into the world, and it comes here and it dumps and it puts our companies out of business. And we saw, despite 25% tariffs, what Joe Biden did was, first and foremost, he put in a bunch of exemptions and exclusions, which gutted the 25% effect. But even with the 25%, what we've seen is a lot of transshipping of Chinese steel, particularly from Vietnam, but also from Korea and Taiwan and Japan, coming in. And they openly scorn a 25% tariff. They openly advertise, hey, we'll eat that, no problem. And it's been a problem for the steel industry. The capacity utilization went back down to 75%. It was well over 80 in the Trump years. And then there was net losses in terms of the balance sheets in the fourth quarter. That's unacceptable, and it's a function of cheating. So 50% is a very good number. We're now in a position, Maria, I have very good news for the American people. We have enough capacity in this country to serve America's needs, both civilian and military.
But here's the smoking gun that no one's talking about. Chinese agents aren't just stealing technology, they're infiltrating our most sensitive industries. The same week that these trade talks happen, we discovered Chinese nationals working on AI, semiconductors, and biotech projects. Coincidence? Not a chance. So the coordination between China, Iran, and Russia is no longer hidden. They meant to strategize against us while we were distracted by riots in L.A. They're planning to help Iran go nuclear while we're putting fires out literally at home. This is coordinated warfare on multiple fronts. Trump's administration isn't sitting idle. Marco Rubio at State is revoking visas for Chinese nationals in sensitive fields. But for every spy we catch, how many are actually operating undetected? How many Fangs are honeypotting their way through Congress right now? The fentanyl crisis? That's not an accident either. China floods our streets with poison through Mexican cartels while blocking us from the minerals needed for semiconductors. They're killing our people while crippling our industry. It's genius if you're evil enough. So the trade talks in London, they represent our last chance to break free before it's too late. We need those 89 deals done, and we need them now. Every day we delay, China tightens its grip on our economy and our future. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So the new Cold War with China isn't about missiles and tanks. It's about rare earth minerals, stolen technology, and fentanyl on our streets. While we've been arguing about pronouns and climate change, China has been executing a decades-long plan to replace America as the world's superpower. They control our medicine supply, our electronics manufacturing, and increasingly our politicians. When Chinese spies operate openly in our universities while Beijing coordinates with Iran and Russia to go nuclear, we're not facing competition, we're facing an existential threat. And Trump's tariffs aren't really just about trade, they're about survival. The 89 deals that must be completed this month will determine whether America remains independent or becomes China's economic colony. So here's my question for you. Should we ban all Chinese nationals from working in sensitive industries until China stops its aggression? Simple yes or no. The clock's ticking, and China is not waiting. If you want to support our work here, check out our patriotic merch in the description at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.